Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I'm Brian Black, joined as always by Rob Henderson.
Hello.
Today we are going to talk about road atlases and road trips and gear that you would take on trips. Summer's around the corner, if not here already.
Pretty much here.
Yeah, pretty much kids are out of school, so summer's already beginning. Summer's
beginning.
here. Yeah. It's begotten.
Yeah.
But
it's hot.
Many people are already planning on road trips, even though it's technically not officially summer yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's hot enough here in Texas to say it's summer. And we briefly wanted to talk about some of the gear that we take when we go on extended travel in a vehicle, or, you know, navigating without an iPhone, which is unheard of.
People just
nowadays.
gasped audibly.
Yeah. Navigating or without let's just say without GPS.
Right.
Because that's some cars have baked in GPS and people don't use their phones anyway, but
yeah, you should know how to navigate
yeah,
without
and
GPS.
that's where I wanted to start is that I mean, I always carry a hard copy of a road atlas in my vehicle because I'm old like that. But I remember the days of navigating in a vehicle before iPhones or GPS.
I remember messing up navigation.
Oh, yeah.
Using an atlas and then getting in trouble.
You had to be on your game as a navigator.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, I didn't hear Siri tell me which way to go. Sorry about that. Yeah. Now you really have to try to screw up.
Yeah.
To not get where you're going. But
I've had areas where the device doesn't cooperate, or I can't search for something or a new destination or something like that. So
Kelly and I were recently in an Uber ride from hell. So whatever directions Uber was telling this driver to go, she wound up in just the wrong part of town.
Oh, no.
And not only was it the wrong part of town, but it was the wrong part of town under construction.
Oh.
So it's like the Uber driver would make turn after turn trying to get back to the highway, but it just kept she just kept hitting dead ends and like construction signs and had to go this way and it's a detour, and I was like, oh my God, this is like a comedy of errors. This is the worst thing ever.
But that's when you're thankful that Uber's not by the mile.
Oh yeah. I was like, whatever you do, don't stop the car.
Yeah. Keep rolling.
Yeah. But an interesting kind of interlude to this is that, you know, granted we weren't in an area where a road atlas would have helped much because it's not really up to date.
Yeah.
But when you're navigating across country, across state, whatever you are, a road atlas can be kind of indispensable just as a manual backup. You know, I'm not saying that you need to use a road atlas when you're traveling now. Yeah. But, I mean, everybody hits spots where GPS is spotty.
Nice.
Yeah. It's like, did that sound good? Yeah. Spotty spot. But everyone hits areas where either goes out, and most modern GPS programs now, even, you know, Apple Maps, will store data in there so that even if you experience, you know, a signal loss, it's still going to have the map and where you're going.
Yeah.
You know, but like a reroute would not be available in that situation. But yeah, it's always good to have a de facto backup. You know.
I also think it's just fun.
It is fun.
And it's something great that if people aren't familiar with it, like especially kids, it's such a great tool because they don't even think about, like, what do you mean there's a book with maps in it? Like, no, it doesn't have to be electronic. It can be, you can learn how to read highway signs versus interstate signs versus, you know, side streets and things like that, and learn how to know if an interstate's traveling west, east, or north, south, or you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the cool information to know, as well as, like, the distance between places, because that's the little known thing that a road atlas has. If you're not familiar with reading a road atlas, you don't know that I can take one city and another city and I can actually add up the distances between them. And sometimes road atlases will have an easy calculation mileage like between cities. Sometimes they have that in the legend and stuff like that. But If you're going from one exit to the other, you can actually count how many miles it'll be until that exit without having to wait for a road sign that tell you that. So it's kind of interesting.
I found that maybe in my experience, not a lot of people are aware that mile markers and exit numbers coexist.
Yeah.
Which I thought was surprising. So that's something else that you can learn.
Yeah. No, that's an important piece of information as well. But yeah, I just kind of find physical maps still interesting, even though I don't find myself using them that often. I mean, I still had, I recently bought a new road atlas, and this is a 2018 one.
A lot of developments over the 2017.
This is the old person's large scale, 35% larger maps version of the Rand McNally 2018 road atlas. But I do like it because it's spiral bound. And the last atlas I had wasn't spiral bound. It was
just like stapled.
Yeah, so I had to kind of it was a page turner.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was neat to kind of like come across that in my vehicle and go, man, I haven't used this in so long. It's kind of falling apart. I should just go look into getting a new one. So I did. And I'm glad I did because you got to update maps. I mean, it's not like a program where it automatically updates for you. You have to physically update them. But back in the day, when I first started traveling out of state and stuff with friends, when I first started driving, I remember getting AAA maps. So a service of AAA, and I'm sure they still offer this, I just have not used it.
Yeah.
Is that you can request maps of, like, you can tell them where you're starting from and where you're going to, and they will give you maps with any kind of road closures and stuff like that along the way. And that used to be how you kind of had. You always had your road atlas, but then you had up-to-date information, like on-the-ground intel from AAA that would tell you what kind of...
Mary Parker from Shoe Street saw a wreck.
Yeah, exactly. And that information would somehow get relayed back to AAA headquarters, and they would update their maps.
Man, sounds like the internet put a lot of people out of jobs.
I know. But AAA is still doing good, apparently.
That's good.
They always have commercials after Sunday morning shows.
I have a really old road atlas, so I definitely should update that. But I also have these like laminated regional maps. So for DFW, I have like a fold out. It folds into the 9 squares or whatever. But it's laminated, which I really like because I can draw on it. So if I need to like route plan, you can do that. But it makes it a lot easier.
Well, what's cool about these is, I think there was an article that we did on the site, not only about road atlases, which we'll link to in the episode of Intel, but there was also another article that I think John McCann wrote about using paper maps with a UV pen, so you could draw cool. Like your escape route out of town,
blacklight it,
and then blacklight it to reveal the
cool.
the escape route. But
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I always thought that was neat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I mean, that's part of like emergency planning stuff that many people don't think about is, how am I going to get out of town if I had to emergency? What if my phone doesn't work? Like, will I be able to know where I'm going?
Yeah, I mean, not to get too apocalyptic, but GPS is a service,
Yes.
And like, it's only as good as when it's up.
Or it's only as good as the batteries or power that's
Well, we also did some,
it.
I think it was information in a SITREP post or something about a certain area in Vegas that was just getting blacked out for GPS.
Oh, yeah.
So, good luck, when that area is blacked out.
Yeah.
And, that was recent, and it wasn't like an end of the world thing. It was just they were doing an exercise, so they shut it off in that area. So,
yeah, I mean, not to put on a tinfoil hat, but
we're gonna.
Well, I'm just always prepared for stuff like that.
Sure.
Even though I never have to rely on it, and I don't expect to have to rely on it, I still like the fact that I know it, and I have the things available at my disposal if something catastrophic happened.
Well, so what does this cost, ballpark?
$20 maybe.
Oh,
$20, $30.
Breaking the bank for a backup.
$24.
Yeah, so that's like...
retail price on the UPC is $19.95.
So there you go.
So I probably got it less on Amazon.
Is it worth $20 to have backup
absolutely.
peace of mind?
Yeah.
And
this is the entire United States.
Right.
It's not just Texas. Right. So.
Well, it's got enough pages to just be Texas.
I don't know if it's got Hawaii though.
Well, if you find yourself driving to Hawaii,
there's a land. You never know. During a catastrophic incident, a land bridge could form. We could be able to drive to Hawaii.
You got a problem.
But other than just the standard road atlas as a backup, I will always make sure I at least have the ability to sleep.
Yep.
Not only in my vehicle but outside of my vehicle if I needed to. So things like sleeping bags and at least a hammock of some kind with a tarp, so to speak, over the top to prevent rain if I had to sleep in that. But I've always at least got that for myself. And if, I'm traveling with people, I'll always throw, because I've got like 3 hammocks, so I'll typically throw an extra one in there, or an extra sleeping bag or something like that.
Yep.
But I like having the ability to kind of change the loadout, so to speak, based on, where I'm going or what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think especially on a road trip and in areas around here, you can get in areas where you don't have a lot of stuff around you. Mm-hmm. So it's important to be able to kind of be a little self-sufficient if you were to break down or something like that. So I always try to add like extra water.
It's happened to me before. I remember before I went in the Navy, I took a cross-country trip to San Diego with a friend, and we were driving, and we actually broke down. Like my radiator busted in my truck, and it was 3 a.m. On the side of the road, and we were like, "Oh crap!" What do we, it was like I had AAA, but I got a call, which that was very early in the cell phone days, so I did have a phone with me.
That's good.
But we didn't know where we were at.
Right.
We were in New Mexico in some crazy, out of the way location where there was no signs around, so I literally had to run to find the next mile marker to even be able to say I'm at mile marker this on this highway. So yeah, it's interesting. But the good thing about that is that using a road atlas, I could use nothing more than a mile marker to pinpoint my location to say we're X number of miles from exit so-and-so. Right. I could do that with a road atlas.
Yep.
So.
And it also just gives you information about, like, how destitute is this? Like, should we break out the sleeping bags, or is it likely that we'll be able to walk to a town or something like that? Because if you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing around you, then you have a little bit better information. And like, I'll always try to pack a little bit more of a toolkit than I normally would, just in case something like that does happen, where it's like, oh, the radiator busted or something. And some stuff you're not going to be able to fix, but I'd feel dumb not having it if I could have just put a little bag in the car.
Well, I always make myself take food as well.
Yeah.
And not just like the typical, like, oh, I'm going to grab some MREs just in case something happens. But I mean, food to eat on the road. Like, I always make sure I have that, because sometimes in the past I've just relied on stopping for food, and that's never something to rely on.
Nope.
I always regret it if I do that, and I haven't done it in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
But just having, even if you don't eat it, just food to take with you, just as sustenance if you need it, is important.
I have an innate competitiveness built into me from my dad and his road tripping. So
to not have to stop.
Yeah, no, you didn't stop. So you took your food because you weren't stopping anywhere. So you just got used to buckling down.
I do that too. It's kind of a self-competitiveness
it is.
thing.
Like, we made the trip in 8 hours.
Right.
Like, whoo!
Yeah.
I'd shaves 20 minutes off last year's record.
How many times did you hit the brakes fast when you suck up? I had 3.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's always good, I think, to have, like we've talked before about what to keep in a vehicle, and I don't think there's anything new. I just think it's more beefed up. I wasn't going to say ingredients, but like contents. To have, like you said, more food. I don't want to eat an MRE if I can avoid it.
Right.
So I'll just have a cooler with apples and stuff like that.
And plus, you don't want to have to stop and make a meal or heat it up, or even heat it up. You know, that's just lost time if you're actually
don't heat up an MRE entree while you're driving. That's terrible.
Have you done that?
No, I'm thinking through it in my head of like propping it up on the center console and like waving the fumes away.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever eaten an MRE in a vehicle or not, like on the road going somewhere. I've typically always had food, but yeah, I mean, water is great too. I mean, obviously, making sure you have plenty of water along with the food is a good thing.
The one thing
and not storing it in the trunk. Like having it
keeping
within
it accessible,
easy reach,
and make sure you check your water containers, because the last thing you want to do is assume you have good water and it's crappy.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, one thing I do is I carry a little more cash on me than I normally would, because I have been in situations to where I'll try to get gas in there. Not that they don't accept the cart, but their machine's down or something like that, and now you're kind of stuck until you can get somewhere for gas.
No, that's a really good point to bring up, and that's not something a lot of people think about. They're just so used to using a card everywhere that they don't even...
Well, and I also try to not use my card when I travel as much, because I've had my accounts get locked for that before, so I don't want to have to deal with the bank and like, oh, hey, I am taking a road trip or something like that, so it's just easier to go cash.
Agreed. Yeah, and then, making sure, obviously, you've had maintenance on your vehicle or your tires aired up, but that actually wound up biting me because the story I told you about breaking down, it's funny because I remember I had just gotten I used to drive a Dodge Ram, and I had just gotten the 30,000 mile maintenance done on my vehicle, and they screwed with something like a belt. I think it was something happened, and they didn't check something. Oh, yes, they didn't check something on the 30,000 mile maintenance, and it wound up breaking down because of that. So I eventually wound up getting the dealership to take care of
Cover it.
Yeah, cover all the problems that happened because of it. But literally, because I was like that even back then. Like I had it in the shop like 3 days before we left, getting that maintenance done, because I knew I was about to take a big long road trip. I want to make sure the vehicle was in good condition.
And you trust your maintenance.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
Had I have not done that, I might have not broken down. But lesson learned.
How I broke my radiator by trusting the mechanic.
And then I also learned that when a car overheats, you should replace the thermostat. Because when I brought it into the service station that was way out in the middle of nowhere that claimed to work on Dodge trucks, they they fixed the radiator problem, but they didn't replace the thermostat. So what happened is it overheated again.
So you had a faulty thermostat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ouch.
That's how I knew, oh, you should replace those? Yeah, so.
I have seen some people that when they do road trips, I mean, if they have an older vehicle, they will take known faulty spare parts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you have a vehicle that breaks belts or hoses or something like that, it wouldn't hurt to have extra. And I keep extra fluid in my vehicle just in case I do happen to get an oil leak or something on the way.
Yeah, I'll keep antifreeze as well as oil. Those are the two things that I like to have. Brake fluid can be something you can add to the mix, but that's not typically. It's not something.
Yeah, I think if you have a brake fluid leak, you have a little bit bigger of an issue.
And maybe that would be covered under like I need to get some maintenance done before I get on the road.
You should probably stop in whatever town you're at and get that fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other. I do try to keep documents with me. I think maybe a little more than I would normally around town, just to have a photocopy of my driver's license, even though I know that that's not a valid form of ID. It's at least something, if you get stopped and you happen to have lost your wallet or something, you'll have a paper backup to at least show someone like, hey, here's a photo of it.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I think it was at least 10 years ago, but I learned that the Texas registration, even though we've moved to a sticker system and you don't have to carry a paper registration document, other states do not recognize that,
sticker.
And you will have to have the piece of paperwork that came with your registration sticker, even though in Texas all you have to do is slap the new registration sticker on and you're good to go, which is now tied into the inspection or so on and so forth. But that piece of paper that it comes with, normally people like put that in their file or shred it. I don't know what people do with it, but I always put mine in my glove box because if you're traveling out of state, other states have to have a piece of paperwork that talks about the registration. So
yeah, if you don't have a registration card,
right?
Because a lot of those do. That's a great point.
You can always try to talk your way out of that and say, "Oh, well, Texas has this," and they might buy it, they might not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Use that cash for bail money.
No, not a bribe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I seem to have
officers
dropped my $20 bill out the window.
They do not like that. There was some movie I was watching the other day that had that on it.
Yeah. No, not a good idea.
I know what it was. Silicon Valley when he was driving the Tesla and got pulled over by the state trooper.
That's right.
And the state trooper accepted the bribe and went into ludicrous mode on his Tesla.
That would be a pretty good bribe.
Yeah.
I might take that.
Yeah, but I mean, the other stuff that could happen is just kind of a normal preventative kind of maintenance that you can be done, as well as just having things like a fire extinguisher in the vehicle or, like you said, extra spare parts if you have that. That's kind of an overland concept as well. You know, if you're traveling, over long distance in remote areas, those are the kind of things you want to have. Any kind of way to get yourself out of an incident, whether it's a recovery situation or extra fuel situation.
I do take 2 radios now. If I were to have to walk.
CB?
Well, I take 2 of the Baofeng ones that, in an emergency you can use frequencies and things like that, but you can also use MGRS or not MGRS. GMRS, yeah. But I think of it in my head as if I was going to have to walk to get gas or something like that, or water or whatever, and the cell phone wasn't being super reliable. If you're within a few miles, sometimes those radios can pick up. Worst case scenario is it's just a backup comm system. So
Yeah, sometimes CB can be a great backup communication method, too.
CB's great, too, to talk to other people, because there are a lot of truck drivers and things like that have CB that you can get some information on traffic or, hey, I'm at mile marker what, and I'm stuck. Is anybody around anywhere that could help or anything like that?
Yeah. That's a good call. Yeah. I know a lot of highways still have emergency phones, too. I was trying to think through that, where I've seen those still. Not very many places, but you will still see them every once in a while.
Rest areas have some, I think.
Yeah,
like
rest areas.
If you can get to a rest area.
Yeah.
Conveniently break down in front of a rest area.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, good call. And I don't know if, I think the maps, they still have the little picnic bench signs for rest stops.
Oh, cool.
You'll see those typically. Oh, look, this one even has phone icons. I've never seen that. I guess that must be a new thing.
I need to get a new atlas. Yeah.
I think so. Maybe that's rest stop. I can't tell. It looked like a phone booth for a second, but I bet it's a building, like a rest stop.
Oh, yeah, like a tiny house.
Yeah.
We should consult the legend, which would tell us somewhere in here.
In this new updated
this
2018.
newfangled map Reader's Digest print version.
Yeah, but that's basically the information I wanted to cover as far as vehicle stuff goes on trips. I know many people are going to be getting in vehicles and taking road trips, and hopefully gas comes back down a little bit. I know it was peaking, and oil was peaking in barrel price, but I think it's coming back down a little bit. I read that in the newspaper.
I was going to say, did you get that from an almanac?
Tell us about the war, Grandpa. Yeah. No, I've been reading the newspaper a lot lately, so I found that out in the newspaper. But yeah, the index is very nice in these things. 1 and 2 digits.
I think this is just a fascinating read for $20, even if you're not using it to navigate.
It really
is. It's just kind of a cool thing to look.
Well, it allows you to see all the highways.
Yeah.
Like the highway system in the United States, which I think is pretty cool.
So, and I have to check myself because I can't remember.
What?
East-west highways are even numbered?
East-west is even, yes.
And then north-south is odd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so like 20 and 30.
We are super lucky in the U.S. to have a pretty great road system.
Yeah.
Everything is pretty ubiquitous when you get on the interstates, which is kind of nice. It doesn't vary as much state to state.
Rest area.
Nice.
So a filled-in little tiny house is rest area with toilets. If it's an open, non-filled-in tiny house, it is without toilets. Just FYI.
Just like a hole in the ground? Or
I don't know.
What's the point of a rest area without toilets?
I don't know. Well, it's like a picnic bench. Yeah. And the other interesting, so there's a campsite is denoted by the picnic bench. So just in case you were wondering. Anyway, I love how the roads all mean something too, like the color lines and just the general color of the road. And
everything is done
a
with
dotted
purpose.
line is railroad. And,
sure.
But yeah. Quick tip, if you get lost, you can always follow power lines back to civilization.
That's a good call.
You can use them as a handrail to get at least to some kind of substation that will...
substation in the middle of nowhere.
The electrical grid is a very fickle animal in the United States. Anyway, so that's road atlases and road travel. And if you guys got any tips on things that you would take on a road trip, leave them in the comments on the YouTube video.
Definitely. I'm excited to hear some of those.
So, I'm excited too. Thanks for listening to Gear Tasting Radio. Remember, if you have any questions, use the # Gear Tasting on any social media network, and we'll find them and get them answered here on this show or our Questions Over Coffee segment for Gear Tasting. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe. We would love your subscription and your review. We've been getting some hilarious reviews on Apple Podcasts, so please keep them up. We're very much enjoying those. Hopefully you like us enough to give us a 5-star review. If you do that, Apple will showcase our podcast around to different people in different areas of the podcasting community that might not catch our episodes. So you would be
wide reaches.
Doing us a favor, yes. Yeah. And last but not least, check out our membership. Our Crew Leader membership allows you to support us in what we do and allows us to give you back something in return. Check out the episode intel for a link to that, as well as some of the stuff we mentioned on the show today. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.